Well, it looks like I got almost everything unpacked now. Wait, why do I even have this? I don't even own a VHS player. Oh, I remember this! Legends of the Hidden Temple. Man, that brings back memories. If you grew up in a similar time period as me, the mid-2000s, you probably recall a simpler time. Kids Bop was still in the single digits, YouTube was home to cat videos and not subpar animation channels, Cartoon Network's making live-action shows, for some reason, and we were faced with the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. It was great! One of my most prominent childhood memories, though, was every Saturday morning in my elementary school years. I finished eating my Eggo waffles or whatever, and turn on one very special channel on the TV. Nick Gas. Dappy, what the frickety frack is Nick Gas? It sounds like a medical condition to me. Well, maybe if you shut your gosh dang yapper, I could explain. Wait, how'd you get in my apartment? Nick Gas was a sub-channel Nickelodeon that aired game shows they done, such as Global Guts, Double Dare, and Nick Arcade. I actually remember watching Global Guts quite a bit too. The point of the show is that it got kids from all around the world to compete, which is a pretty neat concept, and it's also pretty cool seeing that much diversity in a kids game show from so long ago. However, being the dumb kid that I was, I completely disregarded their home countries and just cheered for the blue team every time. Listen, Sally, I don't give two shits if you're from the Czech Republic. Blue is my favorite color. Getting back on track though, the main attraction for Nick Gas and the show I see most fondly remembered is Legends of the Hidden Temple, hosted by Kirk Fogg.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
What set it apart was how, rather than a barrage of trivia or an industrial-looking obstacle course, Legends had a really cool Indiana Jones-like theming with genuinely interesting games and objectives that was able to keep hyperactive first grader me captivated despite each episode having the same structure. Each episode was split into 4 events, and 6 teams competing at the start. First there was a moat crossing challenge, where only 4 teams moved on, a history trivia game, which cut the competing teams down to 2, and finally 3 mini-events that selected which team moved on to the final round, which I'll talk about later. Now, not every portion of this show was perfect. The worst segment was definitely the trivia part. All the questions were multiple choice, which sounds easy on paper, however, the contestants weren't required to listen to the entire question before they answered, so stuff like this happened a lot.
Which of these people fought the Trojans in the Trojan War? The Romans?
Silver snakes. Paris.
Incorrect.
I've got to cut these kids some slack though. Apparently filming days for the show were 14 or so hours long. Nick would film a bunch of episodes in one day. However, instead of filming each episode in one shot, they'd film every moat crossing section at one time, then every trivia section next, and so on. This meant you'd be sitting in a waiting room for nearly 10 hours if you made it to the final round, so some of these kids being a bit out of it by the end is pretty understandable. Now, I haven't really detailed the final round of the show much yet, but this was definitely the biggest draw the show had going for it. The final team's last challenge was going through a giant maze playground obstacle course thing themed like an Aztec temple, and this thing blew my mind as a kid. Seriously, it was my dream to be on this show one day so I could run through this thing. The objective of this final round was solve a few puzzles, go through a few obstacles, and ultimately retrieve some sort of artifact and escape, all within a 3-minute time limit. This doesn't sound too complicated, however there was one major hazard, something that terrified me as a kid and traumatized countless contestants. The temple guards. These were fully grown adults dressed up as Aztec guards who would jump out and scare kids and would end their entire run if they ran out of pendants, which are collected from the earlier games. Imagine being in the shoes of these kids. You just spent 13 hours in a hot Orlando studio doing a bunch of ridiculous games and spend the rest of your time sitting in a boring room, and now, sweaty, tired, and exhausted, a giant dude in a scary mask jumps out at you from the dark. How could you not be terrified? Now, being the child prodigy that I was, I realized that if I were on this show, I'd have to face these temple guard guys too. So I devised a brilliant preemptive strategy. If I just run into the guards, I'll just beat them up. This is what I actually thought I could do if I were caught. I'm not even kidding. Not bad. You made me use almost 10% of my power. As great as Legends of the Hidden Temple was, though, my dreams of participating in it someday were eventually destroyed when I tragically figured out that the show ended before I was even born. Yeah, apparently all the shows on Nick Gas were just reruns of old shows from the 90s. Legends ended way back in 1995. However, being a kid with no internet access, I had no way of knowing this. It aired at the same time as all the other shows I watched, so how was I supposed to know? Then again, them giving away Sega Genesis games as prizes should have been a bit of a red flag. So yeah, that was Legends of the Hidden Temple. It's a show that was a big part of my childhood, and it's really cool to see other people have fond memories of it too. Anyways, I think that wraps up this video. Have an adequate day and don't do
Hey, you guys been in this apartment for well over a month now, and I'm expecting your rent in the next few days. Neither you or Salem has paid yet.
Okay, well, I don't think Salem's here right now, but we'll try and get the rent payment stuff figured out soon.
Wait, excuse me, what? You figured out soon? Wait, you're telling me that you haven't even started sorting out rent yet? Do you guys even talk whatsoever?
Yeah, of course we do. We talked on that first day, and, yeah, that's about it.
Well, that doesn't change the fact that you guys need to pay rent soon, so good luck figuring that out.
Well, it looks like I've got just enough to cover half of this month's rent, but not much after that. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a job.